All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
July 47, the desert heat. A rancher found strange wreckage scattered at his feet. Silver like no metal anybody knew. Whispers in the darkness said, could it all be true? From the skies above old New Mexico, something crashed where the cold winds blow. Roswell nights still call our name, and the world has never been the same. Roswell, secrets in the sand, questions buried by the hands of power, silence, fear, and lies. Still we search the midnight skies. Roswell, echoes never die. Truth keeps shining from the sky, from the desert floor to eternity. Roswell lives in mystery.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. For the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we'll cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction, well, is reality. The X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight right here on the CanCom Broadcast Network and its family of international affiliates and our good friends at your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, just in front of Montebello Park. And Peter Bordley and the crew, thanks, guys, for carrying us all these years. And if you'd like to listen to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, they stream us at classic1220.ca. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is no stranger to the X-Zone radio show. We've had the pleasure of having him on the show a great number of years. Preston Dennett is his name, and he is undoubtedly one of the hardest working authors out there when it comes to the strange, the weird, the paranormal. And, well, why don't we just bring him on and talk to him? Preston Dennett, welcome back to the X-Zone, old friend.
Thank you very much, Rob. It's a pleasure and an honor.
My friend, you are one of the hardest writing authors that I've ever met. How many books do you have all told now?
Well, I'm starting to lose count, actually, but I'm pretty sure it's 32.
Well, I'll tell you something, Preston. You're not only an author, but you do the research, and you're not an armchair researcher. You actually go out there and do the research, so hats off to you. For the listeners who may not have had the pleasure of hearing you the many times you've been on the show, because our network keeps expanding, tell the X-Zone Nation a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I came into this field as a UFO skeptic. That all changed on November 17, 1986, when there was this very famous sighting over Alaska. You've probably heard of it. Captain Kenju Torochi found out my older brother Mark, had seen a UFO. That's what kind of opened the door for me. I found out other family members had encounters, friends, coworkers. So I bought every book I could find on this subject, trying to disprove it. Wasn't able to disprove it. Joined MUFON, took their test, became a field investigator, really started doubling down on investigations. Investigated this topic for 10 years, wrote about 30 articles before I put out my first book about people who are healed by UFOs. That was 1996. Following that, I've written about one book per year on the average.
Wow. I would imagine there is never a shortage of material out there.
There really isn't. And just when you think you've heard everything, along comes another case that turns everything on its end. So this is far, far more common than people realize in terms of how many people have had contact.
With the new movie Disclosure coming out, when is it? Tomorrow?
Right. Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with the public when they see this great movie that Steven Spielberg has done? Do you think that UFO sightings and encounters are going to increase like they did all over the place during what was the last one he did? Come on, Rob.
He did E.T.
And he also
Close
did Close
Encounters
Encounters.
and
Yeah.
Taken. He's done a few. Yeah, it sounds like a really good movie. Already I'm hearing great reviews from people who've had pre-screenings.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it's pretty accurate in terms of pulling out, basing it on real events. I know Close Encounters had honest-to-God cases that he took straight from the newspapers and such in UFO reporting. So I'm very hopeful. I think it's going to wake a lot of people up to the government cover-up, to that this subject is real and that contact is far more widespread. Yeah, I think it's going to be a game changer and really bring a whole new perspective to this field. I'm hoping. I'm an optimist.
All right. Now, the Secretary of War has released some footage about UFOs and UFO cases. Have you had the opportunity of going over them?
I have. Not all the files. I've certainly looked at the films.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of holding my breath because I was hoping for some real earth-shaking revelations, but kind of thinking I'm not going to get any. And I was right. For those who are brand new to the subject, I think it's stupendous, really unprecedented. But for those of us who've been in the field for a long time, there's nothing really earth-shaking there. I want to see the Roswell craft. To me, that's the end game of disclosure.
Exactly.
Show us the bodies.
Yep.
We're not seeing that. I know we have much better footage, even in the public arena, than they're showing in these files that they've released in these videos. Some are really impressive, but most, one was clearly birds. Another was absolutely a balloon. And most are unidentifiable sort of gray splotches darting around. Show us the gun camera footage. That's what I want to see.
Do you think we're any closer to disclosure than the last time you and I chatted?
Yeah, baby steps. We've had no movement for decades and decades. When I got involved in this field, there was nothing. Since 2016, it's been one congressional hearing after another. And while it's still kind of a dog and pony show, and it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back and another sideways, it's bringing a lot of new people into this subject, and it's being discussed seriously. There's still a little bit of a giggle factor. There's still obviously skepticism and gaslighting, but we've really made a lot of progress.
Sure have.
This is something that's exploding into the mainstream media for sure.
And that's because of people like you, Preston, getting out there, talking, getting your books out there, as well as other serious researchers for over the many years that this has been going on since 1947. So to you, Preston, and all the other authors out there and researchers, thanks for doing what you do.
Hey, you too, Rob. We all play a role.
You've got a couple of books that I'd like to talk to you about, new books. One is Symmetry, a True UFO Abduction. What's that all about?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of contactees over the years, and I was contacted by this lady by the name of Dolly Safran, who started to share her encounters. Mm-hmm. Off the bat, I knew she was a good witness. She sent over her resume, which was really impeccable. A registered nurse, retired, worked for the Department of Defense. Amazing resume, and an even more amazing story. She's had fully conscious contact, not through the lens of fear, not recalled through hypnosis, but starting from age 14.
Wow.
One encounter after another, and really opened up her life to me. So I've seen her medical records, which prove the presence of implants, unexplained healings, all kinds of disappearing pregnancies.
Oh my gosh.
I've interviewed her family and friends who corroborated her story. I met her firsthand and saw a UFO, actually had full-on onboard encounter after associating with her for some years. So I know, me personally, I know her story is real. But yeah, she was taken on board and has had very long interactions with grays, human-looking ETs, really a wide variety, tall whites. Her story, I'm going to just say this, is the most extensive, not only that I've ever investigated, but really even read about. Bigger than Betty Andreasson, Jim Sparks. I mean, her case is huge.
Wow. During the research that you've done over the years, is there any common thread that you can find when it comes to those who have encounters or abduction experiences?
Oh, yeah. I think we've got a really good handle on it. When I talk to someone who says, oh, I've been on board, pretty much 80 to even 90%, I can predict what they're going to say. Because the insides of the UFOs, the craft, are very consistent in terms of indirect lighting, rounded walls, very sparse in terms of furniture. The clothes the ETs wear, the things they say, the instruments they use, all are very consistent. And also the messages that people get. So ETs will say something along the lines of, have no fear, you won't be harmed. You're okay, relax, no, we will not hurt you. And then they will take people on board and give them messages. And the messages are almost always the same. I don't care if you're talking to grays, mantids, tall whites, human looking. The message first is warnings about nuclear proliferation. They're very concerned about that.
So am I.
Yeah, I think for good reason.
Yeah.
But also greed and corruption, war and aggression, that's a big one. And also pollution and the destruction of the environment. Those are their main messages.
Do all these ETs come from the same place, or are they from places scattered across the universe?
That's one of the $10 million questions here. We're not precisely sure where they're from. I'm convinced it is from other planets, and they're people very much like us. I will say the Orion constellation comes up repeatedly. Zeta Reticula certainly has come up a number of times, but often they're a little bit tight-lipped and say something like, it's not important, we're from a place you don't know about yet, or this doesn't concern you. But yeah, definitely Orion is one I can point to that comes up fairly consistently.
Preston, you and I have to take our first break, so please stand by. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about our guest this hour, of the many books that he's written about, you can go to his website. It's www.prestondennett.weebly.com. He's also on Facebook at /Preston.Dennett. And Preston, are your books available on Amazon?
They are. Barnes & Noble, other online retailers, yes.
Excellent. Preston Dennett is our guest, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to Preston about a couple of his other books, How Humanoids in High Strangeness, I believe, is one, and Volume 5 of Not From Here. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. Preston Dennett and I will return on the other side of this break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, and they stream us at classic1220.ca.
July 47 in the desert heat, a rancher found strange wreckage scattered at his feet. They say Mandela died in prison back in 1983. Yet history books keep telling us he lived to set men free. How could millions all remember a world that never was? That single strange collective memory started all the buzz. Now people talk of timelines, worlds colliding in the night, tiny cracks in human memory or dimensions out of sight. From children's books to movie lines and logos rearranged, something in the fabric feels familiar yet has changed. They're shifting through the cracks tonight, searching for what's real, trying to understand the things our memories still feel. Are we living parallel lives in worlds just out of phase? Or is the human mind rewriting yesterday's old days?
Preston Dennett is our special guest this hour, Exonation. His website is www.prestondennett.weebly.com. Preston, something crossed my mind as we were in the commercial break. A lot of people now are associating not only Bigfoot with UFO sightings, but they're also saying that these UFOs and ETs may be interdimensional. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think we do have some interesting insights about that. I mean, I'm not sure how useful it is to call them interdimensional because from my perspective, humans are interdimensional too. I mean, we have a soul. We survive death. I think the evidence is very compelling on that. So you can call us interdimensional beings. And certainly if you investigate things like yogis and enlightened masters, you're seeing reports of people turning invisible and walking through walls and levitating and doing all the things we ascribe to ETs. So I'm not sure that being interdimensional is exclusionary of them being ETs as well. So that's kind of my perspective on it. As far as Bigfoot, I did a study on that in one of my Not From Here volumes because, well, most people who see a Bigfoot aren't going to see a UFO. And vice versa. Most people who have a UFO encounter, there's no Bigfoot. There's about 100 cases where these two phenomena intersect perfectly, directly. And by that, I mean someone will see a Bigfoot on board a craft or coming out of one or going into one, or will have an encounter with grays and there's a Bigfoot with them. So how do we explain this? Some are saying, well, maybe Bigfoot's ET. But I became a Bigfoot researcher because I started running into these cases. Wrote a whole book on just Bigfoot. And it's pretty clear to me they've been on this planet forever and are native to it. So what I think we're dealing with is a species that lives on our planet, which is very psychically advanced, sentient, intelligent, and is in contact with ET. So I know how this sounds to a skeptic, but I think some Bigfoot are ET contactees, much in the same way a person is.
What's the strangest humanoid that you've ever come across in your research that have been reported and brought to the attention of UFO investigators and maybe even the authorities?
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer because sometimes we just get completely unique beings. There was one lady I interviewed, a housewife from Nebraska, who had childhood encounters with grays, but became very ill following a pregnancy and was passing out. She had some sort of blood sugar disorder that the doctors could not diagnose, but suddenly found herself, she's not even sure if it was on a craft or in some sort of a base or something, but she was approached by a 9-foot tall humanoid that looked human, but clearly wasn't. He had a huge chin, an oversized forehead, orange spiky hair that really wasn't hair, she said. It was more like straw. It stuck up about 3 inches from the top of his head. He wore a shiny black jumpsuit, was very muscular, and basically put her on a table and started placing these silver bell-shaped instruments on her body, which was pulsating energy. And she was very frightened. She's not religious, but she started saying the Hail Marys and
I would imagine
calling out to Jesus, and was incredibly frightened, but woke up back in her home, could not wake up her family for almost 30 minutes. Her her husband wouldn't wake up, nor her 3 children. Finally, she got them awake. They were all very groggy. But following that, prior to this, she had been fainting 2, 3, 4 times a day because her blood sugar was just all over the map. Following this, she was very sore and not fainting anymore and realized that they had healed her. But I have never had another account where people describe that type of ET. There was another gentleman in Canada who described 10-foot tall ETs. And I'm like, that sounds pretty tall. Are you sure? And he's like, listen, I'm 6'5". I was standing right next to them. This was outside on Wasaga Beach. And he said that they had jagged teeth, golden eyes, and were not human. So I don't know. There's really difficult to categorize accounts of these really tall humanoids, really short ones, hairy beings. It's all over the map.
One of your books is also, one of your new books, I should say, is Volume 5, Not From Here. What is that about?
Yeah, my Not From Here series explores little known, sometimes controversial or weird patterns in UFO contact. For example, in the first volume, there's 10 chapters in each volume, but I explored accounts of UFOs over graveyards. That's definitely a thing that
really?
A lot of people do. Yeah.
Are they taking bodies?
In some cases, it sure looks like it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, J. Allen Hynek had a case, Raymond Fowler. This is Jim and Cora Lorenzen. I'm telling you, this is absolutely a thing.
And you just named some of the top researchers.
Right. And that's what got me interested in this, because I started to see this pattern that hadn't been explored before.
I've never heard of that before, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. Would they, in your opinion, do you think that they are conducting experiments or biologically dissecting the cadavers that they bring on board?
Well, my first theory was that perhaps they're collecting genetic material, because we know they're certainly interested in that. There was a case in West Virginia at the Dean Memorial Cemetery, in the Netkin Cemetery, where they'd put a body in the ground and the UFOs would show up that day. So there was enough cases where people were doing UFO stakeouts. And I was speaking with Scott Corrales. He theorizes that perhaps they're collecting implants. I asked Dolly Safran about that, and she's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. So that's kind of where I'm going at this point.
So let me understand this. They put the implant in the person when they're alive and they take it back when they're dead.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Or before
Yeah.
they die. I know of a few cases of very old people who, so they came again. And because normally once you reach a certain age, your contacts really start to slow down. Not always, but in most cases.
I remember talking to you about a book where ETs have healed people. Is there a connection between them healing people, the implants, and retrieval of implants?
I think there is. There's a lot of speculation about what implants are. And I can tell you from a firsthand contactee perspective, people have asked the ETs. One lady I interviewed, she asked them, what are you doing? They said, we're putting an implant in your body. She asked them why. And they said, this is to measure the level of pollution in your body. And it wasn't long after that, I found an account where the ET said, we're measuring your vitals. This is how we keep track of your health. Another said, this measures the level of pollution in your body. And the more information I found about this almost always leads to something being health related. Not always. In some cases, they said it facilitates communication.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely, it does seem to be involved with health. Healing is absolutely, and I can pretty much prove this, one of the ET agendas. This is why a lot of people are being taken on board. It's a physical checkup, is what it amounts to, and sometimes a healing.
Now, with the people that have been taken aboard or have had these healings, is there something that, is there a connection? I don't mean a personal connection, but is there a connection on what these people have and,
yes.
What is it?
Yeah, there absolutely is, because this really started to bother me. Like, why are some people being healed and others aren't? Why do some people have contact and others don't? Because in my files, it's evenly divided between men and women.
Really?
And it's, 100%. And it has no bearing that I could find on blood type, because people say, oh, Rh negative. I'm like, no, I don't think so. All ancestries, certainly, I ask the hard questions. I will ask people a person's political affiliation, religion, education. There was no real pattern that I could find.
No common thread.
But I did finally find three main patterns.
Okay.
One is certainly well established among other researchers as well, which is contact tends to follow certain family lines. We know this. I've got cases in the book Humanoids and High Strangeness. There's one where it's following 4 generations back. Very well verified. And another pattern we see is contactees, almost without exception, are profoundly psychic. So people will come back from their encounters and they're having astral projection. They're experiencing mediumship, precognition, levitation even, but hands-on healing, remote viewing. They're seeing shadow people. It's absolutely a prominent pattern. More the rule than the exception.
It almost seems as if the ETs are taking people and bringing them on board and returning them as emissaries, you know?
To some extent, I think that's true. But here's the real pattern that, like, whoa, this is a thing.
Okay.
Because I was interviewing this lady from Norway, and she was healed of chronic back pain by Greys, who didn't, it was very scary for her. So I'm asking her all the questions, and she didn't have contact as a child. It's not in her family. She wasn't fitting the pattern really at all of people who have contact. And finally, I just asked her, what do you do for a living? And she said, please don't use my name. I'm a retired artist, but I'm now very active in my country. This is Norway, doing human and animal rights activism. That struck a chord with me because I had just interviewed Reverend Michael Carter, who was healed of a blood clot, and he works against racism.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, gosh, isn't that what happened to John Hunter Gray, who was an award-winning civil rights activist for Native Americans?
Stand by, Preston. We've got to take a break. I'm sorry about this. We'll come right back to this because this is really interesting. And Preston Dennett's website is prestondennett.weebly.com, and all his books are available. I would imagine maybe you can get a hint of what his books are about on his website, but I know for a fact they're available on Amazon.com. This is The X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. Preston Dennett and I return after this break right here on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, classic1220.ca.
Lines and logos rearranged. Something in the fabric feels familiar, yet has changed. We're shifting through the cracks tonight, searching for what's real, trying to understand. Dragons and candlelight, two dreamers dance through the endless night. Oberon called to the ancient skies. Morning glory saw truth in their eyes. From the forest deep to the ocean foam, they built a world and they books of magic and hearts untamed, changing the world in the old God's name. Oh, Oberon, wizard of the silver flame, morning glory calling nature's sacred name. Through the mists of the unicorn spirit by their side.
Welcome back, everyone. Preston Dennett is our special guest. www.prestondennett.weebly.com. I'm sorry I had to interrupt you there, old friend, but we do have these hard breaks, so please continue.
Yeah, I was talking about the lady from Norway who was healed of chronic back problems. It turns out she was an animal and human rights activist. that really sparked a memory in me of other people I've interviewed who've been healed, who were also sort of doing good work for humanity in some capacity, whether it's fighting against racism or what I found is an inordinate number of doctors, nurses, police officers, artists, teachers, writers, things that, along this line, musicians, inventors. Did I already mention that?
Yeah.
At any rate, people who in some way are helping humanity out. And I started to get more information on this. For example, I interviewed a couple who had an encounter in Sedona who were healed and asked the ETs, why don't you just come down and fix things?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They said, no, we can't do that. It's up to you to solve your own problems. And they said, why did you pick us up? And they said, we are helping those who help others. Well, he's a social worker and she does alternative healing.
Wow.
So, now I always ask people this. I'm like, so what do you do for, like a guy in Utah, I said, what do you do for a living? He says, well, I'm a bus driver. I'm like, okay, well, he told me some interesting bus driving stories. He says, but my real passion is this website I run where I help people to get in touch with their spirituality and wake up to their psychic abilities. And I'm like, oh, well, here we go.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question here. When we look at the Bible and the birth of Christ, how Mary was given the seed of Christ by Gabriel, an angel. Is it possible, Preston, that this, the birth of Christ is actually written proof for so many years ago of alien intervention with humanity?
Yeah, I don't think we can rule it out. It's very difficult to investigate events that are that long ago. But it's really interesting because I think we have a tendency to perceive events through the lens of our own beliefs, our own culture. And look at the angel accounts. The angels would come down. These are beings glowing with light.
Tons of them, yeah.
Yeah, and they would often say things like, don't be afraid. No harm will come to you. Well, doesn't that sound familiar?
It does.
And certainly the wheels of Ezekiel are often mentioned, or the book of Enoch. So I think there might be something to that. It's very hard to say for sure, but it would not surprise me because there's quite a few details in the story of Jesus that match up to a modern day onboard UFO encounter.
Plus you've got the three wise men who were magi, and then you had the Star of Bethlehem. So it's a lot there to kind of, in my opinion, put it towards the events pertaining to a spectacular UFO ET encounter with a humanoid.
Yeah. Also, the Fatima incident of 1917.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, in Portugal. Yeah.
Makes me wonder.
I often wonder if they take on these appearances, like the Lady of Fatima, in order to better communicate with humans and to dose down the fear factor.
I think it's entirely possible because I do know that sometimes when children will have encounters, I wrote a chapter about this in my Not From Here books, as a matter of fact, because people described seeing these often grays, but dressed up as clowns or wearing a wig or kind of masquerading as teddy bears or superheroes or animals of all types, which we often look as screen memories. But I think sometimes this is intentional on the part of the ETs to sort of reduce the fear factor. Not sure if it's worked with clowns, fear of clowns. It's called chlorophobia. It's very pronounced in the contactee community. I was at a UFO support group. I'm just curious, because Bud Hopkins talked about this as well. I'm like, how do you guys feel about clowns? I may as well have set off an atom bomb. People were jumping up and screaming.
Wow.
They had these kinds of encounters. So there was a weird connection there.
Is there any one country that has more encounters and sightings than any other country? Based on size, not population.
I don't think so.
No way.
Now, we get an awful lot of encounters here in the U.S., and I've had people contact me from overseas or what have you and said, how come UFOs only visit the United States? Well, that's obviously not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I can actually prove it. We have a very widespread UFO investigative group here in the US, a media that's really latched onto the subject. But I put out a challenge to my fans, basically. Name any town, any city on this planet. I don't care how obscure it is or where it is, and I will investigate it and see if I can find an encounter there. And I got over 1,000 responses, and I'm going down this list. And guess what? I don't care which town you mention, I will be able to find an encounter there. One guy thought he had me stumped. He named a little Eskimo town in the Arctic Circle. I found one. So the point is, UFOs are being seen everywhere. And I think this has some really profound implications.
I'm sorry. With the war in Iran and in the Middle East, have there been any reports of UFOs monitoring what is going on, especially since President Trump has stated that, the annihilation of an entire nation? And to me, the only way that could happen would be with the use of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ETs, well, we know this, are very, very concerned about our warlike ways. Mm-hmm. And there's a long, long history of them appearing during conflicts. Certainly in the Vietnam War, the Korean War. I mean, it's all over the place. This is definitely a thing. I don't have any good reporting on the Iran conflict and UFO appearances, because these days we have drones up the wazoo, and it's so hard to differentiate those at this point. But we know that they're watching over these kinds of things very closely.
In your opinion, Preston, if that time came when President Trump or whoever has the ability to push that nuclear weapon button, do you think that the ETs would step in to save humanity?
I hope so. I'm not sure that they will. They didn't with Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Mm-hmm. They didn't stop 3 Mile Island or Fukushima or Chernobyl. People have asked about this. And while I think there's some evidence that they've intervened to a limited extent, I would point to the Malmstrom incident in Montana in 1967. I don't think we can depend on them saving us. I hope they would. I think it's possible if it became a complete existential crisis that they would scoop people up and save them that way. But I'm not sure that they're going to prevent a nuclear war. There was a case in Lake Champlain investigated by Walter Webb where 2 people were taken on board, and one of them again asked them, why don't you just come down and help us? We're starving. And there's wars. And they told him, we can't do that. The results would be much worse off. Another guy in Austria said the same thing. And they said, you are in a much better position than we are to affect change. You need to go out there and make things better. We cannot do that. So I don't know. I don't know that they would do that.
I would imagine it would be very hard to land a UFO now on the front lawn of the White House with the UFC championships going on.
Yeah. Well, people always say, why don't they just land on the White House lawn? And I always say, well, look, 1952, they came awful close. Yeah. They flew over the Capitol. If we hadn't scrambled jets after them, tried to shoot them down, because that was our MO at that time, shoot them down. Talk to Frank Ficino Jr. He wrote a book. It's required reading. They may have just landed. We may have had open official contact.
But if they were going to land in Washington, why wouldn't they also land in Red Square or at the Kremlin or here in Parliament Hill or Buckingham Place all at the same time? Why Washington?
Yeah, well, I think that we're egocentric to think that would be the place.
Okay.
It's just as likely that, because India has a very large population. Of course, China. And
are there a lot of sightings in China?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. The information coming out of there is very difficult to get. But I do have Paul Dong's book, UFOs Over China, which shows that they take it very seriously. They have UFO organizations that are filled with people with very high credentials. They absolutely take it seriously. But I don't know that ETs are going to do that. They are conducting a very vigorous publicity campaign. I think we know this because we have regular waves of activity. I wrote a book about schoolyard encounters. UFOs have showed themselves over schools in every country on this planet, mostly elementary schools, but colleges, junior high, high schools, over drive-in movie theaters.
I remember that case, yeah.
Researchers, called displays. They're intentionally showing themselves. It's a publicity campaign. It really is.
You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Preston, please stand by. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Preston Dennett, visit his website, www.prestondennett.com. And to buy any of Preston's 30-plus books, just go to amazon.com. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Preston Dennett and I return on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, streaming us at classic1220.ca.
In a house of dragons and candlelight, two dreamers dance through the endless night. Oberon called to the ancient skies. Morning glory saw truth in their eyes. There's a whisper in the silence when the final breath is near. A gentle hand beside you, calming every fear. The room grows soft with shadows as the earthly chains grow light. And somewhere in the distance burns a warm eternal light. Beyond the veil, beyond the night, past the sorrow into the light. Guiding spirits softly call. No one ever walks alone at all. Through the doorway, hearts set free. Past what was to what will be. Beyond the veil, we all must go. To the great unknown.
Preston Dennett is our guest this hour. First of all, Preston, thanks very much for sharing this hour with us. Always great having you here in the X-Zone. Maybe you can help us catch up to date on a few things. For example, Nessie. Has she been seen lately?
Not that I've heard of. I've not really been focusing on that, so I couldn't tell you authoritatively, but I haven't heard any recent famous sightings.
Yeah,
I should say
neither
that.
have I. That's why I thought I'd ask you, because you've got your finger on the pulse of a lot of different areas out there. All right. Has there been any more finds by ancient alien investigators that tend to add to the mounting amount of evidence that ET has been here?
Not too long ago, there was some interesting LiDAR, I think, studies of the pyramid, which showed that there appears to be something beneath the pyramids that we weren't aware of, or the Sphinx. That I found kind of interesting. I didn't see any follow-up on that, but there's always new stuff being discovered on our planet. It's amazing.
I often wonder if they did a serious research discovery case on the oceans, what they would find, because that there, in my opinion, is one of the greatest mysteries of all time.
Absolutely, yeah. I've said it before. We know more about the surface of the moon than what's going on underneath our oceans.
What did you think about the lunar mission with Artemis?
Oh, it's thrilling.
Yeah.
Seeing the interviews of the astronauts there, you could tell they were jumping up and down. There was one really interesting kind of viral clip where they were standing behind President Trump when he mentioned something about they've seen things. And the two of them kind of looked at each other and had this knowing expression on their face. I'm wondering if they saw some stuff, because there's good reporting that there are alien structures on the far side of the moon, coming from a number of different sources. So perhaps they're aware of that, perhaps not. If they are, they're not talking, and I wish they would.
Yes. What do you think about the next trip that they're going to do to the moon, where they're actually going to land?
I think it's absolutely amazing, and I hope that perhaps NASA will finally come forward, because they've said, oh, we're forming a panel on UFOs, but we still need more information. I think that's disingenuous. If anyone knows that UFOs are real, it would be them. And I think they do know.
I remember years ago doing an interview with Arden Albee, who at the time was the director of NASA. And I asked him point blank, I said, what would happen if NASA had unequivocal proof that UFOs are real? What would you do? He said, Rob, we would run to every media outlet and let them know what we had, show them whatever evidence we had, because that would guarantee us funding throughout the years. So maybe since Arden Albee left, I guess this was going back maybe 20 years, NASA has the proof. And then you have all these people who've been watching the NASA feeds, and they've been reporting anomalies. And it seems as soon as the anomaly is noticed, the NASA feed drops. So who knows?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff coming from the International Space Station as well. And what I understand, there's two groups in NASA, those who have seen them and those who haven't, but that they all know it's real. That's from an inside report. So
something that I'm sure our listeners will enjoy hearing about, Preston, if you'd be so kind, is that there's a case of a gray alien on a bicycle.
Ah, yes. This is why I kind of called this book Humanoids and High Strangeness, because I know for a fact that often authors will edit out high strangeness aspects of UFO encounters. And this one absolutely qualifies. This is a lady I interviewed who, as a young child, was out playing with her friends, and they were pushing their bikes up a hill and then riding down. Well, they all decided to go home, but she wanted to take one more push up the hill and ride down, coasting. Got to the top of the hill and saw this little boy hobbling towards her on his bike. He obviously could not ride it well. She thought, well, that's strange. He's got very gray skin. And as he got closer, he thought, gosh, perhaps he's deformed or not. He definitely wasn't normal. And she described your typical gray. Wow. The weird thing is, he was wearing a red Pendleton shirt, blue jeans. He was barefoot. And she screamed and essentially ran away, went back to the home where all the other kids were. And they're like, where have you been? It's been 2 hours. She had missing time. Under hypnosis, of course, recalled being taken on board. But I have to think that this gray showed up on a bike wearing jeans and a shirt for that same reason you mentioned earlier, to sort of reduce the fear factor.
I can just imagine that there is some place where this little gray was seen that is missing from their clothesline a few things. Yeah. So what are you going to be doing in the future, Preston? Are you going to be doing any more research on exciting projects? Or are you going to be going to symposiums, giving lectures? Or are you just going to stick your nose to the grind and keep on writing, baby?
Always writing. I've got 3 or 4 books I'm working on right now. Another Not From Here series, a sequel to Symmetry about Dolly Saffron's encounters. We're going to talk about the science that the ETs have taught her, and some about spirituality and things like this. Doing another one on ETs, another one about my own out-of-body experiences. I speak at conventions once or twice a year. I have none lined up at this point. But yeah, this is an important subject. I'm not giving up until we end the cover-up. Ultimately, that would be my goal. If we can see the Roswell craft and the bodies, then maybe I'll take a rest. I'll take a 2-week break. How's that? Then I'll get back to work.
If you came across an ET, you're driving somewhere and on the middle of the road is this UFO and you can see the ETs outside of the craft and they approach your vehicle, what is the one question that you would ask?
Do you have a book I could borrow? Well, give it back, I promise. Or can I go for a ride? Would you mind giving me, your jumpsuit? I don't mean for you to take off your clothes here, but
can I have take a selfie with you?
Yeah, something along those lines. I don't think I would be afraid. I've had a number of UFO encounters, and they've always been thrilling. But you never know until it happens to you how you're going to react.
I had a guest on last night, Tony Ghazi, who was talking about connection with the Antares and the praying mantises. Do you get reports about the praying mantis ETs?
I do. Yeah, one really amazing one was a teacher who was jogging out very early, 4 a.m. near her home in O'Fallon, Illinois. Her dog stops and looks ahead of her. Often they'll see fox and deer.
Sure.
And she saw what looked like a person walking on stilts with extenders on his arm, booking it down the middle of this road. And it walks right under the streetlight. So now she can not only see it, but get a good estimate on its height. It was a praying mantis.
Oh, my gosh.
And she said it was 15 feet tall, kind of mottled white, very long stick-like limbs, incredibly thin, taking 6-foot strides. And she and her dog watched it walk by. I probably would have turned around and jogged back home, but nope, she chased after it just in time to see it disappear into the cornfield. An amazing case.
Unreal. Oh, we've got about 2.5 minutes left, but your own out-of-body experiences. Can you share one with us quickly?
Yeah, certainly. I started having OBEs following the death of my mother and really pursued it after reading Robert Monroe's book, Journeys Out of the Body.
Oh, yeah, great one.
And, it was so amazing. I did a lot of meditation and visualizations, all the exercises. Finally, I'm lying on my stomach one afternoon. This is during the day. And I started to feel what they call the vibratory state. Mm-hmm. This is sort of an electric feeling moving through your body. I didn't recognize it for what it was. I thought I had stuck my finger in the light socket next to my bed, was being electrocuted. And suddenly there was a popping noise and I was flung out of my body across the hallway into the restroom. And I'm looking in the mirror and I don't see myself. So that's when I realized, oh my God, I am having an out-of-body experience. My life changed in that moment. I knew it was real. I knew there was life after death. You could exist independently of the body. Couldn't wait to try it again and started having these experiences regularly. Learned to walk through the walls, fly around the neighborhood, and finally made it to the other side where I met my mother, who had died some years earlier.
Oh my gosh.
And what an incredible reunion. What a beautiful, beautiful place the other side is. We're in for a treat when we all shuffle off our mortal coil, as Shakespeare says, when we pass on.
Yeah,
it's going to be an awesome experience.
And we shed this meat suit that has been holding us down after all these years. Preston, time's come, my friend, when you and I must say so long. First of all, again, thanks very much. I love the work that you do. Please keep up the great work. And as always, I look forward to the next time you're with us here in the X Zone. But before you go, please share the information on how our listeners can contact you, learn more about you, and buy your books.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rob. I'm pretty easy to find on social media, and I will respond. You can contact me through my website. My books are available on Amazon and other online retailers. I have a YouTube channel that's growing by leaps and bounds because I'm putting out my research there for those who can't afford books. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show, Rob. This subject is so important.
It is.
People say it doesn't affect me. I'm like, well, look, I got news for you. It really does. It's affecting every aspect of society, particularly this cover-up, which has to end. So thank you.
Don't be a stranger. Anytime, the door is always open to you. Take care of yourself, my friend. Exonation, our guest this hour has been Preston Dennett. And I must say, every time I have Preston on, it's always a great pleasure. Because what he does, in my opinion, is real research. He doesn't sit in an armchair and write a book. He's actually out there talking to the people, getting the accounts firsthand. And that's what makes him not only a great researcher, but a super author. www.prestondennett.weebly.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone will start hour number 2 tonight from our Broadcast Center studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, and they stream us at classic1220.ca.